Interesting.
All right. Well, one guy who I think really would not mind the introduction of a 165-pound division in the UFC. One of my dear friends, broadcast partner, former UFC lightweight contender, the Iron Lung, Paul Felder. It's great to see you, my man.
What's up, fellas?
What's happening, man?
Did we just get off the bike out of the pool? What are we doing today, triathlete?
Today, I actually just finished setting up one of those fancy ice baths with the chiller and the thing. Dude, I'm not a guy that's good with instructions. And Christine, my wife, refused to help me. She's like, I know that you can do this, so I just need to not. I need to not help you so that you'll actually go and do it yourself. And I did. I got the pipes all hooked up and clamped on. Of course, I did it all wrong the first time around. Had to redo all the pipes and all that. But we are in business for cold plunge therapy at a reasonable temperature. Because obviously, you guys know East Coast temperatures right now can get to the point where I'm chopping through ice to even get to that.
Paul the plumber Felder. I love it. Dude.
And then we have a bike and a run today, guys. An hour and 25 on the bike and an hour run afterwards.
So Kenny was sort of leaning into the Wim Hof stuff before cold plunging was all the rage, right? But there are some of us that just don't do well with the cold, like Bilal Muhammad. He just doesn't do cold therapy. And so there's much more research for hot therapy and the health benefits of the sauna than the cold. But I think the research is going to catch up. There's no doubt it's good for you. But Kenny, you were leaning into that stuff before it was cool.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was because I hated it, man. I hated the cold, and I needed to kind of face that demon. So wanted to learn some techniques on how to deal with it and face that fear. And now it feels great. I definitely think, as far from an inflammation standpoint, it's helpful in that. I think for recovery, it's pretty helpful in that regard. But I also think, mentally, the ability to stay calm and composure and be comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think that's where most of the benefits lie. So, and then of course, there's a lot of other benefits, that they're talking about medically in regards to strengthening your immune system, et cetera, et cetera. So, I
think that's what it is.
Yeah, it's 57 degrees, Paulie, in South Florida today. I could jump in my pool and get some sort of effect.
You probably good because they say, when you see a lot of these guys, Ryan Kafar, who's a good friend of mine, is always posting chopping through his ice out in his backyard in Jersey. But they say below 40, there's no more benefits to it. You know what I mean? It's cold enough at that temperature that if it's right around freezing, you're just showing off, basically.
Right. Well, like the sauna is the same thing, right? 172 to 174 is sort of as hot as you need it. And I don't know why I'm trying to pull out my dick and set it to 183, but that's going to do it. All right. So I'm going to ask you this not to be funny, right? But you might think it's a little bit comedic. But I thought we had officially changed your nickname from the Irish Dragon to the Iron Lung. So I'm watching the feature on the broadcast when Frankie Edgar's Hall of Fame announcement took place. And you were featured prominently in that piece. And they fonted you as the Irish Dragon. So I'm just looking for a nickname update here before we get into the meat of the interview.
The disrespect of the UFC. You tell them that you're changing your name. You tell them you want to fight potentially. They don't care, John. They just don't care. They want me at the booth with you or Brendan doing my damn job. Shut up, Irish Dragon, and sit at your desk.
All right. Well, I'm going to affect changes as far as the nickname is concerned. A few things that we want to get to with you, but I do want to show you the new studio if I could, Paulie. See, we got the fucking 3-shot, right? We got the Felder and Anik FNA t-shirt today. This is where my twin brother normally sits, but he's not here. And then we go back to the 1-shot right there. But yeah, so we got this studio. This studio is in my master bedroom. And pre-COVID, it would have cost $1 million. But because of COVID and everybody doing these home studios, now these things are pretty cheap. So I just want to show you that. But I want to get into at least the Strickland Duplessis fight and your thoughts on it. I know Kenny has some thoughts on your personal stuff and UFC 300 and everything else. But Sean Strickland, Dracus Duplessis, are you watching that sort of in the middle of the night on the East Coast, one eye open? And what were your thoughts on that middleweight championship fight?
You know exactly how it is. And that's exactly what was going on. And I was entertained and I was watching it and it was back and forth. But again, honestly, 5 rounds before it, right into another 5-round fight. It was so tough to fight. But man, listen, I think when these fights are like that, nowadays it's so cool and so popular for everyone to scream robbery, to scream this. when a fight is competitive like that and two guys go and beat the crap out of each other for 25 minutes, and you always talk about it, John, you can't say, oh, well, you got to beat the champ to take. It doesn't work like that. The judges don't score fights like that. They score them one at a time, and then whoever has the most rounds at the end of the fight with the most points wins the fight. So I don't think you can argue it. And what's this? Did this actually happen where Sean, after the fight, had said to Duplessis that he thought he won? I saw quoted that Duplessis had said that.
Yeah, Dracus, I guess, said that this week, Kenny. Duplessis
if that's the case, then it's like, man, there's no argument. If your gut feeling after a fight like that is to immediately tell the guy that you think that he won the fight,
right,
you lost the fight.
Right. There are
well, it's hilarious seeing the different takes like that. Like some of the biased people on it, they're like, you could tell when they were going to announce the decision, DDP knew that he lost. You're like, guys, come on. Like, seriously.
I think Sean, after the fact, maybe thought that inadvertent headbutt caused the cut. And so maybe that was something that he leaned in a little bit more into after the fact. But Duplessis has been a truth teller like every step of the way. And there's really no reason for him to lie about that. I don't know why he would do that. So certainly an entertaining, if a touch controversial middleweight championship fight to begin the year. But yeah, we'll see what happens from there.
What's next, What's next for the guys, do you think?
Right. That's what we were talking about a little bit. It's tricky because Dracus du Plessis was wise to not rush into a title fight with Israel Adesanya last year in September on one foot. Yeah. But now he's banged up. And I understand the value of a UFC 300 payday as you do, Paulie, but like he's trying to maintain status as the champion. So yeah, I would think 10 weeks from now, April 13th would be ill-advised given the travel and everything else. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think you hold on to that belt. You do your little parade. I mean, people are loving him. He had a huge welcome back home. Man, wait until the timing's right because is there a chance that eventually they take that a fight down to South Africa and have him headline and defend there? That would be epic. Yeah. First time in Africa too, right?
Yeah. There are rumors, by the way, that Dan Hooker turned over to you after your main event in Auckland and said, Paulie, I know you won that fight.
Well, he did raise my hand when I retired in the cage. So, right. I wasn't sure if that was just a gesture of being nice, and see Cody there. Yes, I did win. Thanks, Cody. I do think I won that one. But dude, that now feels like a million years ago at this point. It feels like it was, it's one of those things where it was just yesterday. And Kenny, I'm sure you can attest this, right? Where it's like, you feel like you're in there 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's been years.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
So we came on the air after Jim Miller called you out for UFC 300, and Kenny felt like that was the right fight to make. And I think a lot of fans were receptive to it. The only thing that I felt like was maybe working against you is if they thought it was just a one-off for you, right? Like if they felt like you were going to be back for 2 or 3 and try to regain your status as a top 8 lightweight in the world, I think that fight might have been made instead of Bobby Green. So I know it's probably a little bit difficult for you to talk about, but what were your thoughts on Bobby Green getting that fight when you were the first name on the tip of Jim Miller's tongue?
Well, fortunately for me that night, I reached out to who matters, right? And I reached out to Sean, and we were out to dinner, and I was like, let me at least just see if it's even on the table before I get all excited. The media talked to me. I'm like, oh man, this might actually happen. You start getting those butterflies, that nervous feeling, like wanted to go hit pads right then and there. Maybe I am pumped to do this. But the only reason I was reluctant in the post-fight thing that I did too, it's like, you don't want to go out and just make that decision right then and there in front of everyone. That's foolish. I'm an adult. I know that I should go home, talk to everyone, make sure everyone's on board first before I commit to getting into a training camp for the first time in years. But before that even got to that point, I talked to Sean, and he's like, man, we're looking to give him something closer to the top 10. It's what me and Dana think is right for him. And I was like, okay. There's nothing else to be said. I can't argue. I'm not going to. So I never even got the ball rolling into thinking that it was going to happen.
But that was your first mistake, Paul, acting like an adult, man. That was your first mistake.
You're right, Kenny. You're right. If I had been brash and started tweeting, calling Jim this and that, like, let's go, I'd have probably gotten the fight. But instead,
take the suit off, walk into the octagon. Yeah.
I should have charged the cage. That would have made headlines for sure.
Well, I try to be as objective as possible, believe it or not, even in terms of like Bilal Muhammad's candidacy, right? It has nothing to do with our friendship. It has everything to do with him being the number one contender. But I will say, I feel like Paul's career is criminally underappreciated. I feel like you are an underrated lightweight and always were. And when I see like Benoit Saint-Denis get the Dustin Poirier fight, I'm happy for BSD. I'm happy that Dustin Poirier is accepting that fight because he understands he's the underdog and he wants that challenge. But it's frustrating for me that the Poirier and Gaethje fight, both of those fights that in my mind you earned, you never got. And then Benoit Saint-Denis, barely with a number next to his name, is getting that fight.
Yeah, I think that's what frustrates me looking back, right? Where I was that guy, right? I was that blood and guts guy. I was the one that was really trying to, sorry, did I get glitchy there? Was that me?
You're good.
All right. And, yeah, it's like people love him. They get behind him and then they're supporting him getting those bigger fights. But when I was trying to do that, you're right. It was like I shouldn't have even been thinking that. It was delusional for me to think that being on a 3-fight win streak should get you somebody in the top 10 or top 15 after going for fight of the night, all these bonuses, all this kind of stuff. But no, now that's okay. And, Benoit's got that. But listen, I'm one of his biggest fans for sure. Benoit Saint-Denis. I think that guy is an absolute maniac. But yeah, dude, it sucks. But what can I do? I've got the job that I wanted. I get to still be a part of the game. If I really wanted to come back, I still could. I've been talking to you about potential ideas and people were throwing around the Matt Brown idea. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the fight. I'm a lot smaller now. It would definitely be smart to stay at 155.
And Paul, you're still training. Like, how many days a week are you doing stuff these days?
Well, it's mostly triathlon stuff, but I'm still training 2 to 3 times a day, putting in like 15 to 20 hours a week of endurance training. And I could easily just start going right into the gym and training again. And when I've done it, it's still there. I just have to get used to getting the bumps and the bruises and condition the body up for that kind of thing. I would still want a good 10 to 12 weeks before a fight just to make sure that I'm getting a few rounds of sparring in. Is it feeling okay? And then go from there. But I wouldn't go crazy with the sparring either, Kenny, at this point. Like I would do a lot of timing stuff, I think, to make sure that I was sharp and seeing things coming at me.
Yeah.
But as far as taking the hits, I'd probably limit that to like maybe once a week where I'm putting the bigger gloves on and actually sparring decently hard.
Yeah, man, I think that's a smart approach at this point. You train with some killers, man. Joe Pyfer, Sean Brady are a couple names that come to mind. I know you got some other guys that are coming up. Out of those guys that you're training with, how many of those guys do you see becoming a potential world champion in the future?
I think if Sean stays where he's at mentally, I think that Bilal loss really was what he needed, honestly. Yeah. He needed to face a guy like Bilal who's at the tippy top, who's kind of felt disrespected that he couldn't get what he wanted, and he took him on anyway. And I think a lot of people were favoring Sean, and it didn't go his way. He had to go overseas. He had to do a lot of the things that fighting it's tough, and he got through that and then comes back and gets a huge win. I really do think he's got potential to be fighting for the belt someday. I think Joe Pyfer, he's so young. If he just doesn't try to rush to the top like we see a lot of guys do, I think he hits so freaking hard, man. Oh, I mean, I know I'm a 55er and he's a 85er, but I've been hit by 85ers many, many times in sparring. You can just tell when someone's got the gift, right? And he's got the gift. There's no doubt. I mean, in that room Jeremiah Wells is in that room. Andre Petrosky comes and trains. Pat Sabatini is in there. There's some foreign guys that are coming through and spending time there. And I was joking with John Marquez, the guy that runs Marquez MMA and is most of their head coach and their head striking coach. And I was like, dude, when you start getting the stands to start coming to your gym and migrating the Kyrgyzstan, whatever, Dagestan, if they're filling into your gym and wanting to come and train with you, something's going right.
Sean Brady certainly looked like a future world champion his last time out. You were listening to the Iron Lung Paul Felder with us here on the Anik Florian podcast. Are you working, by the way, this weekend or what?
No, man, I'm not working until Mexico City.
All right, Mexico City, February 24th. That's a great show. If any broadcaster can handle the high altitude, Before I let you go,
John, right? How high is it? Over 7, I think.
Yeah, that's bad. We were talking how Duplessis lives at north of 4,000 feet. And I meant to bring it up on the broadcast, right? Probably something that should have been.
And that's right at that sweet spot. If you're sleeping above 4,000 feet consistently, anytime you go down from that, you're going to feel like a machine. Oh, it's right. South Africa is altitude. Yeah.
3,900 feet. Yeah. And depending on where you are.
3,900. Sorry. 3,900.
Yeah. But in Pretoria, where he is, it is like 4,300. But yeah, parts of Johannesburg are 6,000 feet above sea level. But I did find it interesting, and Paulie and I have talked so much about triathlons, that respectfully, when you did address the media, you know where I'm going. When you addressed the media after the Jim Miller call out, I think you were asked about triathlons and the Diaz brothers. Yeah. And I just don't think people quite understand just how close to being like a tried and true professional triathlete Paul is. I mean, the guys at the elite level, I know you'll always be chasing, but with respect to the Diaz brothers, like Paul Felder would probably beat those guys by an hour, if not more.
I think an hour is probably, because I think they could probably do it at, I don't know. I mean, I'm talking shit, but I don't know how many 70.3s they do in general, and that's my main race. I mean, let's say we even race them in an Olympic distance, though. The only place I see them maybe beating me, I don't know what their swim is like. Obviously, swimming is my weaker point. But John, I'm putting the time in, and the numbers are starting to come down on my 100 pace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, would you do cannabis for those triathlons? Huh, Paul? Huh? Let's see you get on their level, and then let's have a race.
Yeah, I mean, if we smoked a blunt beforehand, they probably beat me because
You're like, I just need a floaty. I'll be good.
I'm trying
take
to
me for a ride on a bike. Yeah.
Where are the sodas at? That's where I'm interested.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, I John, I'm crazy. Like, and Christine, I drive her nuts, but because I'm training for these things as if I'm a professional. Unfortunately, there's no money coming in. I'm not a professional. But I mean, David Tilbury Davis, my coach, works with a ton of really good pros. I'm really good friends with Lionel Sanders, who's one of the best professional men out there. And these guys I'm nowhere near those guys. But as far as the age group guys, I'm getting to the top. I hope to get an age group win. Now that I'm gonna be 40 to 44 now. So now, these dudes there's less really, really good guys in that age group than when I was in the 30s. But some of these 40-year-olds that have already established their careers, where former college athletes are getting into this shit, and they're so freaking athletic. Wow. It's ridiculous.
Well, I probably shouldn't
beat them all up, though. I think I can beat them all up.
I was going to say, I probably shouldn't say this on an MMA podcast, but I am more invested, if not, as invested in your triathlon career as I am in your MMA career. But I do hope we see it.
I'm glad to hear that, because you are in the minority on that. Because when I post pictures or the little videos of me on the trainer in the garage, to me, I'm like, man, look at the watts that I'm putting out. Right. Look how much sweat I got going on. Do you guys realize how fast I'm going on this fake bike that's actually taking me nowhere except for destroying my quads on a daily basis?
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's like when I talk NFL with my twin brother, people don't want to hear it. But congratulations, Paul Felder, on the recent induction into the CFFC Hall of Fame. I do hope to see you at some point in the octagon. Stay healthy, my man, and I'll see you on this crazy UFC roadshow in the not too distant future. We appreciate a few minutes, my brother.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, man. It's been nice chatting. Kenny, good to see you, dude.
Good to see you, bro.
There he is, folks. Man. The iron lung Paul Felder. I will take it up with Michael LaPlante and Zach Candido. Heretofore, no longer to be vaunted as the Irish Dragon. All right.